Hey, good evening, folks. Thanks for tuning in to the Dave Englishman Show with your host, me, Dave Englishman. So, every time I do one of these shows, I bring a couple of things to you. I want you to go, first of all, to the Convention of States. Take these off until I read. I don't want you to get the glare from my glasses. I'm sorry about that. So, just bad habit. So, Convention of States. There's a petition that'll be in my show notes. You need to go and sign up for this. They're going to ask you for some personal information. They don't get too personal. They don't share your data. The only thing you'll ever get is maybe a couple of emails just letting you know where your state is, how many delegates you have, and the progress of the whole plan. What this is about, we need to get an amendment out there that all politicians, whether it's federal, state, municipal, you do 2 terms, max, you get out. I believe that one of the things, and actually a friend of mine on Facebook who watched my video actually came on, thanks Brian, and made the comment, he said, I don't believe that, they should get out having full pensions for life after 2 terms and have a different medical plan than we the people. I don't believe they should have a different medical plan currently than we the people. I think whatever we have, they should have, and that's written in the Constitution. They shouldn't be elevated above us. They are working for us, and it's a privilege that they're there by the grace of us. And don't ever forget that. They work for us, whether you believe that or not. Just because they're senators and congressmen and they project power down onto you doesn't mean that that's how things really are, because they're not. You have the power. We have the power. We're going to get into some of this stuff tonight. So you can go and you can download. I'll put the show in the show notes, the links for this as well. This is the pocket guide for the Convention of States, and I really strongly encourage you to go and read through it. And you'll learn a little bit more about what the actual amendment is in our Constitution that gives us the right to do this, and you need to read it. Very telling. So this evening, I wanted to give you what I believe is the perfect answer to a liberal about the reasons why we voted for Donald Trump. So I'm going to put on the glasses. Hopefully you don't get any glare. I apologize if you do. So I'm going to move this a little bit so that I'm looking this way. Dear confused liberal, if you are a liberal who can't stand Trump and cannot possibly fathom why conservatives or anyone would ever vote for him, let me finally fill you in. It's not that we love Donald Trump so much, it's that we can't stand you. And we will do whatever it takes, even if that means electing a rude, obnoxious, unpredictable narcissist, your words, not ours, to hold the office of the President of the United States. Because the only thing we find more dangerous to this nation than Donald Trump is you. How is that possible, you might ask? Well, you've done everything in your power to destroy our country, from tearing down the police, to tearing down our history, to tearing down our borders, from systematically destroying our schools and brainwashing our kids into believing socialism is the answer to anything, despite being an unmitigated failure everywhere it's been tried, while demonizing religion and faith and glorifying abortion, violence, and thug culture. From calling us racist every time we expect everyone of any skin color to follow our laws equally, to telling us that our tolerance of lifestyles that we don't agree with isn't nearly enough. No, we must celebrate any lifestyle choice or gender option. Forget science you throw in our direction, or you think it's fine to call us homophobic or some other degrading slur you decide is okay to call us. Ironically, all while lecturing us on hate speech. While you gaslight us about 52 genders, polyamory, grown men in dresses sharing public locker rooms with little girls, and normalize the sexualization of young children, you simultaneously ridicule us for having the audacity to wish someone a Merry Christmas, or hang a flag on the 4th of July, or stand for the national anthem, or, horror of horrors, don a MAGA hat. So much for your tolerance. You see why we think you're just a bunch of hypocrites? We're also not interested in the fact that you can unilaterally decide that 250 years of the right to bear arms against a tyrannical or ineffective government should be abolished because you can't get the violence in the cities that you manage, under control. Or that free speech should be tossed out the window and that those who disagree with your opinions are fair game for public harassment or doxing. That spoiled children with nose rings and tats who still live off their parents' dime should be allowed to loot and destroy cities and people's livelihoods without repercussions, that chaos and lawlessness and disrespect for authority should be the norm, the new normal. This is your agenda, and you wonder why we find that you are more dangerous than Donald Trump. Your narrative is a constant drone of oppressor-oppressed race baiting intended to divide the country in as many ways as you possibly can. You love to sell victimhood to people of color every chance you get because it's such an easy sell compared to actually teaching people to stand on their own 2 feet and take personal responsibility for their own lives, for their own communities, and for their own futures. But you won't do that. You will never do that because then you will lose control over the people of color. Correct. You will lose control over the people of color. They might actually start thinking for themselves. God forbid. These are the reasons why we will vote for Donald Trump. Not because he is the most charming character on the block. Not because he is the most polite politician to have ever graced the Oval Office. We will vote for Donald Trump because we are sick to death of you and all of the destructive crap that you are doing to this once beautiful and relatively safe country. Your ineffective and completely dysfunctional liberal leadership has literally destroyed our most beautiful cities, our public education system, and done its damnedest to rip faith out of everybody's lives. However bad you think Donald Trump may be, he is a human being. All humans are fallible and imperfect, but every day we look at you and we feel that no matter what Donald Trump says or does, there is no possible way that he could be any worse for our country than you. We are sick to death of your stupid, destructive, ignorant, and intolerant behavior and beliefs parading around as wokeness. We are beyond sick of your hypocrisy and your bullshit. We are fed up with your disrespectful divisiveness and constant unrelenting harping and whining and complaining while you live in the most privileged nation on the planet, while making literally zero contributions to anything positive to our society. Your entire focus has been on ripping things down. Never ever do you plan or show to plan to build anything up. Think about that, as there is something fundamentally very wrong in the psychology of people who choose destruction as their primary modus operandi. Think about that. If Donald Trump is reelected, don't blame us. Look in the freaking mirror and blame yourselves. Because you are the ones that are responsible for the rise of Donald Trump. Because you are the ones who have created this monster that you claim to despise. And that is why we'll vote for Donald Trump. Because we don't trust you. Actions speak louder than any words ever will. So, with that being said, I want to get right into tonight's show. I'm going to show you some things that I think, if you haven't seen these already, I'm going to expand on it. But I wanted to leave this picture up while I read that so you can understand that these people who represent the left, these are the leaders of the left, are telling you there needs to be unrest in the streets. Protesters should not let up. A crowd, and you push back on them, and you tell them they're not welcome anymore. I just don't know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be, says Nancy Pelosi. Can you imagine? So I'm doing this show because, here you go, here's my burn, loot, and murder. Remember I told you what BLM stands for? Burn, loot, and murder. I couldn't help but put that up. I thought, should I? I don't care anymore. Well, I care greatly about the country, but I don't care about BLM or Antifa or any of these knuckle-dragging lowlifes who believe that they're anti-fascist, but they're anti-First Amendment, and they're... And real math doesn't a negative and a negative equal a positive? I think I remember taking that like grade 6. So an anti-fascist would be a negative, but these people are actually anti-fascist because they're like against what they stand for. So they're anti-fascist. So I don't know how that works, but it just doesn't make any sense to me that these people are being funded. They're being given the tools of violence and destruction. They're being bussed and flown all over the country. And the left says basically nothing about it except we need more of this. So tonight's show, I want to talk to, these are all the nuts over here. That's the nut section. This over here, this is all the conservative section. And right now Trump has 94.6% of the right is in favor of him and is voting for him. I think you have like 98 people who came out as former Republicans in the national arena, and they're against him. But you know what? I don't care about those people anyways because they weren't really conservatives. You'll never find a conservative. Let me rephrase that. You'll never find a Democrat who claims he's a conservative or brings conservative values, but you'll always find some conservatives that will bring liberal ideology into their own way of thinking. And we have those within our party, and we need to be careful. We need to clean them out. So tonight, I'm not so much speaking to this group because you're already awake and you see what's going on in the country. This group here, they're lost. I'm speaking to the group in the very center on the right and the left, the independents. So I want to show you some things that I think will kind of get you thinking tonight. So I want to bring this to light again. This is 1 minute, 1 second long. I'm going to play the whole thing. And this is our friend Kamala Harris, and she's on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. And I showed you a clip of this before, but I didn't show you the whole segment. So we're going to play this, and I want you to watch what's going on in the background. Quite telling. Oh, hang on. Let me go back. The volume is not up. The only thing I hate about Chromebook is if I turn the videos and I set them, and then I go back to play, my volume is always gone. So let's play this again.
Hey everybody, we're back with Senator Kamala Harris. Clear that I know that there are protests still happening in major cities across the United States.
They're not going to stop. They're not going to stop. This is a movement, I'm telling you.
Multiple locations that have been burning in Kenosha, Wisconsin.
And everyone beware. They're not going to stop. They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. Everyone beware. They're not going to let up, and they should not.
I want to burn the White House down.
We need a revolution in order to overthrow this system, bring a whole new communist world into being.
Everyone should take note of that. Beware. They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. Beware. Beware. Beware.
So that kind of shows you the mental state of Kamala Harris. And if she's saying that, you can bet your boots that the people who are behind her and Biden, they're pushing that narrative just as much as she is. Nobody's stopping her from saying that. You know what the agenda is, right? This is just more chaos. This mail-in ballot is to divide the country. They're pushing this country to a civil war. And I make that claim, and I will guarantee you that by, I'm going to give it 10 days from today. Today's the 15th. It's the 15th. It's 11:15 at night. So I'm going to give it 10 days. So I'm going to say September the 25th. By that time, you're going to have both sides of mainstream media mentioning the word civil war to you in the news. I say the next 10 days, maybe 15 at the most. And the reason I say that is that the left is planning to try to overthrow the United States government after the election. They are going to hold up the ballot counting, but yet they're going to try to blame Trump for this. That's why they're going after the USPS. They're doing everything they can to make Trump look like he's going to rig the election while they themselves try to rig the election. Have you noticed that everything that they've ever thrown at Trump, it is they themselves that have been caught doing it? They accused him of spying, they spied. They accuse him of everything, and it's always them. They accused him of colluding with Russia. It was actually them that was colluding with Russia to try to frame Trump. It's nonsensical. He's colluding with the Russian prime minister. Meanwhile, it was them that's colluding with the Russian prime minister, and Biden's on the take and trying to use $100 or $1 billion against Ukraine if they don't fire the prosecutor looking into his son's illegal business dealings with a gas company in the Ukraine. Kind of funny, huh? So anyway, I want to bring you some stuff that I don't think many of you have seen. If you have, great. I want you to burn this into your head, because this is what's coming to a small town in America if Biden wins. And I'm going to get into why I say that.
Yo, shit, damn, hey, shorty, chill. They coming, shorty. Shit, damn, hey, yo. Shorty, I gotta chill, yo. Yo, what the fuck? Damn. Shorty, y'all got to dip, yo. Dip, yo. Y'all got to go, yo.
Pretty pathetic, huh? This is a man who left work and was trying to get in his car. Just trying to get in his car. And they're stomping on his head. And they rip his pants down. He can't run away. And then they beat on him. For no other reason than he's white. We're living in really sick times. And this is rampant. Yet the left wants to defund the police. And they want to take away your guns. We're going to get into that. So here's another video. This is absolute chaos. This is New York City. This is right downtown. New York City's out of control. Why de Blasio is still the mayor of New York is just beyond me. I remember only a mere 7 weeks ago, de Blasio coming out basically saying that Cuomo coming out and saying that if de Blasio couldn't clean the city up, how do they remove him? And yet this complete moron, who is a devout Sandinista, communist government lover, and actually worked for Fund the Sandinistas here in the United States, claims he's a socialist, and is running the city into the ground, defunding the police, and letting the violence just persist. But yet Cuomo says, how do we get rid of him under the COVID pandemic? But yet you've got all the people who have any money in the city are all leaving in droves. Hell, I was telling my buddy just 20 minutes ago on the phone, excuse me, people in New York are leaving in droves that have money. I live in Connecticut. It's one state over. They're buying homes in Connecticut sight unseen. Some for literally like thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars more than what the homes are worth. Sight unseen. If you live in a decent neighborhood, you have a big house and a big piece of property, they're just buying it. They're getting out of New York. Meanwhile, Cuomo's on TV pandering to them. Come back, I'll cook you dinner personally. And de Blasio is driving him out. And meanwhile, when Cuomo was saying about de Blasio, how do we remove him? Cuomo was sticking everybody with COVID into a nursing home to kill thousands more people. And yet, the hospital ship that Trump provided is sitting in the harbor. Javits Center is sitting there that Trump, had built, had what, 2,000 beds? Plus the ship had another, 600 beds? And they sent like 28 people between the two hospitals. The rest of them they shipped back into old folks' homes. So while Cuomo's telling everybody how bad de Blasio is, what was that, a diversion to get the heat off of him for killing all these old people? I'm telling you folks, this is really serious stuff. These people have betrayed the American public. These people should not be in government. I honestly believe they're all traitorous. So here we go. This is BLM verbally attacking and trying to goad the National Guard into striking them. And there's reporters for the national media filming this, waiting for a response.
Stop breathing. You want to get peace? You want to punch somebody out, don't you? You want me to get out your face, don't you? But you know you can't do shit. You can't do shit till Chief tell you. Your daddy tell you. Your dad tell you. Your daddy tell you to do something. He said, take your clip out your gun because you can't do shit. And you took it out, didn't you? They said, put the motherfucking clothes on. He looks like no sergeant. He looks like no sergeant. He looks like a bitch. That's what you listen like. You somebody bitch, man. You listen to words everybody else say. You don't even think your damn self. You don't even let them think your damn self.
Now, I guarantee you, I'm looking at this man on the screen and I'm like, wow, that guy's got a lot of patience. But, you know, bravo to the guys in our military and the women in our military who have the finest training in the world to stand there and put up with that crap. And meanwhile, in his head, he's probably going, dude, if you only knew, if I had the right to come at you, I would rip you apart. We have the best trained military in the world, and these guys are out there on the ground protecting, you know, federal courthouses and federal property from these BML Marxist activists that are trying to burn down our cities and beat America into submission. And as I was telling my friend on the phone earlier tonight, this whole thing is, you know, they want to beat Americans into submission where they go, oh, wow, under Trump, there's just so much violence going on in all these cities. If we vote for Biden, maybe the violence will just go away. No, it won't. Kamala Harris has already said it won't stop after the election. So even if Biden wins, it won't stop after the election. Or does she know that Trump's going to win in a landslide and that's what she's meaning? You see, you can take it either way, right? So it doesn't matter which way you take it. These people are still going to be rioting, but it's going to be for reasons. And they're political reasons why they're out there rioting and why the left, these mayors and these governors in these blue states, continue to allow it to happen and they won't do anything about it. And meanwhile, business owners and normal everyday citizens are losing everything they've worked their life for, losing their homes, losing their businesses. And it's getting to the point where I said on last show, and I mean this, you can go and read the stories. There's people in these downtown communities where, you know, there's houses that are downtown in the downtown area. The husband comes home from work. The wife is there with the kids. The women are taking their kids to the basements, and the husband's literally sitting upstairs in the dark now with a shotgun or with whatever weapon that he has to protect his home in case these these losers break into their homes to either rob them or worse. They want to start a civil war in this country. They have no idea what they're out for. So we have these people defunding the police, letting the riots go on. And I want to show you this. This is just, to me, this is one of the most abhorrent things I've seen in a very long time. And this shows the sad state of affairs that we currently live in, where you can get beaten up for being white, or you can get shot just for being a police officer. You did nothing.
The urgent manhunt near Los Angeles tonight after 2 sheriff's deputies were ambushed. And tonight here, the new surveillance now emerging, showing the female deputy applying a tourniquet to her partner, calling for help despite being shot herself. Here's our chief national correspondent, Matt Gutman, tonight.
Tonight, new security camera footage capturing this female LA County Sheriff's deputy shot through the jaw, but tending to her partner, himself shot in the forehead, protecting him by placing him behind that pillar and radioing for help.
She's calling for help, but she's having a hard time because she can't speak very well.
Moments earlier, a lone gunman approaching their cruiser, firing multiple times, fleeing on foot. The deputies, a 31-year-old mother of a 6-year-old and a 24-year-old man, were sworn in only 14 months ago. They were rushed to the hospital where a small group of protesters gathered, heckling the deputies. One protester live streaming the incident. People heard taunting the wounded deputies. Tension has been high in South LA since sheriff's deputies shot and killed bicyclist Dijon Kizzy on August 31st. With nightly protests at the local sheriff's station. In a statement, former Vice President Biden calling the attacks on the deputies absolutely unconscionable. President Trump also weighing in.
Tonight, our thoughts are with the two sheriff's deputies in Los Angeles who were fighting for their lives when a vicious criminal walked up to their vehicle and shot them at point blank range.
And David, the sheriff tells me they were throwing.
So, you have Biden saying it's unconscionable, right? But then, this is his next response. I'm telling you, folks, it's not going to get any better. He comes out and he says, weapons of war have no place in our communities. Biden calls for gun control less than 24 hours after 2 LA County sheriffs were critically wounded in ambush while they sat in their squad car. It says here, weapons of war have no place in our communities. We need to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. So the left is back to its old narrative. Anytime they can politicize any shooting, they hate cops. Now they're going to use it to politicize the banning of guns. I mean, that's the most hypocritical thing I think I've heard in a long time. And this show is all about pointing out their hypocrisy. So we have, because the left is now saying, oh, Biden didn't say that he wants to defund the police. I have the video. So let's watch the video and find out for ourselves if Biden actually says, let's divert funds. When he's asked, would you defund the police department? Would you divert funds? Diverting funds, defunding the police. Diverting, moving. Diverting, taking away from one, giving to another. Diverting, water over a dam. Put the dam up. Divert it down a creek. Changing direction. Reallocating. Doesn't matter what you call it. You're defunding. So let's play this.
Surplus military equipment for law enforcement. They don't need that. The last thing you need is an up-armored Humvee coming into a neighborhood. It's like the military invading. They don't know anybody. They become the enemy. They're supposed to be protecting these people. So my generic point is that...
Can we agree that we can redirect some of the funding?
Yes, absolutely. One of the things that we also need to be doing...
So first of all, he basically says that the police are the enemies of the people. He called them that. You heard it yourself. I'll put this in the show notes. You go back and play it again. He calls the police the enemies of the people. Then he says he's going to divert money. So meanwhile, they're all for the looting, the rioting, the burning, the murders, and everything else. Let's defund the police while all of that's going on. And then let's take away your guns. Does that make you feel protected in your home? Does that make you feel protected, America? You people that sat in the middle? You, here. Do you feel protected? Because I sit way over here with a whole bunch of us that have guns. And I don't feel protected. You want to know something? I wasn't going to do this. I don't care. This goes with me wherever I go. Because I don't feel like I'm safe in my own country anymore. Millions of us don't feel safe in our own country anymore. We have a right to carry that. Quite frankly, I don't believe that you should have to go through your state to have a license so they can charge you to own a gun, considering it's our right. It's the Second Amendment. It's our right to bear arms. We also have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, if I have the right to life, I have the right to defend my life. If I have the right to the pursuit of happiness, it means I don't want to get shot myself or my wife or my kids or anybody that I love or any of my neighbors or my friends to get shot if I'm in their presence. I want to be able to defend the people that I love and respect and cherish in my life. So this moron wants to take away my ability to protect me and my family, and he calls every gun is a weapon of war. It's not just the big, bad, scary assault weapon because it's painted black and it has a scope on it, or it has a laser or a strobe flashlight or has a red dot or has night vision or has a tripod or has a collapsible stock or it has a heat shield that looks cool, a bump stock. I mean, that was pretty stupid anyways, garbage, but whatever. You get my point. But they want to take your guns away. It doesn't matter what you own. High-capacity magazines to them is anything more than one bullet. They want you to have like a 1776 musket. That's what you can defend your home with, right? That or a shotgun, and then the only thing they'll give you is birdshot. Well, you don't have the right to have anything more than birdshot because, we're going to defund the police. We're going to have a national police force like the Germans did. That's what they're looking for. These thugs that are on the street, those will be the first ones that become their attack force. To just go in, they're going to have neighbor reporting against neighbor. They already did that under COVID to see if they could get people to comply. You understand this is all a game to them? This is a manipulation game to see who they can get to wear the masks. And I'm going to get to that right now, why I'm talking about you people in the middle, right? These idiots, they're lost. These people way over here, I think they already understand that these lockdowns and everything else is a joke. So, one of my employees, really awesome guy. So, he's been watching my show. Him and I talk at work. And he says to me, hey, he says, your last show, he says, you're talking about masks. And he says, you got talking about, this whole pandemic has gone through the summer where people generally get together. And he says, we would have 4th of July parties. He said, we'd have a lot of get-togethers, family, friends. And he says, this summer, there's been no get-togethers. And he says, nobody's been able to socialize. And he says, when you socialize, he says, most people open up and they start talking about their political beliefs or what's going on in the country. And they start having a genuine conversation about the realities of what's going on in our communities, our states, and across our nation. He says, you notice that nobody's been talking because nobody's been socializing. He says, so I watched your show and I've been thinking about that. And he goes, you want to know what a mask now is to me? I said, what's that? He said, I have a dog who barks a lot. He says, and I bought him a muzzle. He said, well, a mask is just a symbolized muzzle on a human face. He says, have you noticed when you go into a supermarket or you go shopping? He says, nobody talks to each other. He said, you go to a store before, people would have small talk. Even if they didn't know each other. Nobody's talking. There's no conversation starter. There's no conversation about anything. Nobody's talking about what's really going on. So the people who are sitting in this spot right here are kind of out there and they don't know what to believe. They see the mainstream media, nothing but bullshit gaslight them 24/7 about anything that's not real. And then they're told, don't watch Fox News because they're all lies. So they avoid Fox News like the plague. And I'm not saying Fox News is the answer to everything either, because at this stage of the game, there's very few left on there that will give you the real straight goods. You've got idiots like Wallace. I'm sorry, Wallace is a punk. He's nothing like his father. His father was a decent guy who actually brought you the news in a relevant way so that you could make up your own mind. He gave you the facts and the data and said, here you go. You make up your own mind, whether you're on the left or the right. I'm not going to do that for you. These idiots, all they do is politicize everything. That's all Democrats ever want to do. Everything to them is politicization. They'll politicize anything and everything in their path. Yet they say Donald Trump is destructive. Boy, oh boy. So, we did that one. The Atlantic, the same rag that came out and said that Trump, didn't go to the cemetery because everybody who died is losers and whatever else, just to try to slander him in front of the military because he's got probably 98% of the military believe in him and love him as president of the United States. So the Atlantic comes out and they're now going to tell us what the left's endgame here is with these riots and all the rest of the stuff that's going on. So I'm going to read you a couple paragraphs. Adam Green, a co-founder of the Progressive Change Campaign Committee. You see, everything that they do, every movement that they have, you can go and you can find these because it's all about change. Just look for change, change.org, change.net, change.whatever. And go and look up these groups. And usually if there's one, they'll have links to all the other ones. And it's like tentacles weaving their way out into the land. And it all started with, who was that guy? Barack Obama. What was he when he first started before he got into politics? Oh, he's a community organizer. So I'll start over again. Sorry, I took off on a tangent there. Adam Green, I'm so pissed off with all this stuff. You should be too. Adam Green, a co-founder of the Progressive Change Campaign Committee, another group participating in post-election planning, told me that he can guarantee that we will not have asymmetric warfare this time around. We won't have litigation on the left and thuggery and election disruption on the right. Okay. If Trump tries to stop the counting of mail-in ballots after Election Day, oh my God, folks, we actually have a date, right? You put a stamp, and if it comes in before midnight, it counts for that day. After that, it's late. It shouldn't be counted. It's been that way in every election since God's creation of elections. You show up late for the poll, it's 8 o'clock, door closes, you're gone, you're done, you're out. If you're in the lineup, they'll still let you in, but if you're not in the lineup at 8 o'clock, sorry, you're done. Sorry. I can't believe that of all the people that I know, and I know myself pretty damn good, of all the people I know, I see some people that are kind of like me. They're outraged, but they're not getting vocal. They're not expressing themselves. They're not telling people the way it really is. They're quiet. Conservatives don't want to cause turmoil. It's about time conservatives speak up. Got to stand up for your country or you're going to lose it. You understand? I'm telling you the straight goods. You're going to lose your country. You need to stand up. You need to be counted. You need to be heard. You can't be a simpleton and be quiet from now on. They say the quiet masses. Well, you can't be quiet anymore. You need to be ruckus because these people need to understand there may be a couple of 100, 1,000 of these turds, these asswipes that want to take over and burn our cities that are out there in the public sphere burning, looting, and murdering people. There's millions of us, and it's about time we stand up and show them, listen, no matter what you do, you're going to lose in the end because there is way more of us than there are of you. Don't forget the Constitution says the tree of liberty needs to be watered from time to time. That's our right. Change the government when the government ceases to work for us. They gave us the tools for a reason. They knew that people couldn't be trusted. Absolute power corrupts, and these people are out for absolute power. Communism and socialism is about power and control. The liberal agenda is about power and control. We've been warned by Eisenhower. We were warned by JFK. Hell, we were warned by Lincoln. Lincoln didn't want to have a dollar the way we have it today. He was fighting tooth and nail to keep the banknote the way that it was. He ended up assassinated. JFK, he wanted to take us off the petrodollar that was to be and return us to the gold and silver standard. They murdered him. And meanwhile, he tells us there's a secret society that's crept into our bureaucracies and into our government. You need to beware, and the media needs to beware and do an accurate reporting. The fifth pillar. The fifth pillar doesn't work for the country anymore. The media has been propagandized. I showed you that 2 shows ago. Obama signed legislation that the media can lie to you. The media does not have to tell you the truth, and they're not. So the people who sat in the middle, you need to wake up. You need to start paying attention. And I hope people on the red side take my video or any other conservative video that's talking about these topics and sending them to your friends that are in the center and saying, listen, you might want to watch this. You might want to check out the show notes in the bottom. You might want to check out the links and then maybe do some research for yourself so you can understand what's really going on here. There's an end game. There always is. But these people are devious. They're into other things. I've shown you that they're into the sex trafficking ring, which is worldwide. It's a billions of dollars a year industry. And there's people in Hollywood, in the media, and in our political apparatus that are involved in this. Just like the CIA ran drugs. They've been running drugs since the Vietnam War. The CIA is into everything. And that's your secret government. That's your deep state. They infiltrated the media in 1953. They held Senate hearings on it. I put it in the last show. You can go and watch it. I even put a clip from the hearing. It's called the church hearings. Go and look it up on YouTube. The church hearings. Go and watch it. It'll blow your mind. You're going to be like, oh my God. So Project Mockingbird was never shut down? No, the CIA project called Mockingbird. What does a mockingbird do? Is to infiltrate and propagandize our news media so that we consume what they want us to consume. Notice that there's only 6 families control all of the media in the United States. All of it. All of it. Sorry for yelling. I'm done. You people need to wake up. So it says here, if Trump tries to stop the counting of mail-in ballots after Election Day or otherwise, tries to short-circuit the results, Green predicts the scale of protest would be that of a Black Lives Matter protest on steroids. On steroids. And meanwhile, CNN standing there with their video camera, and at the bottom, it says mainly peaceful protests. Along the little red bar that goes across their screen, Chiron. They call it a Chiron. And meanwhile, over the reporter's shoulder, the whole downtown is on fire. Mainly peaceful protests. And the people who watch that, the ones that are on the far side in blue, the lunatics that you'll never save, they buy into it. Oh my God, they're having peaceful protests. They're shooting off fireworks. Hey, Henry, they're shooting off fireworks. Yeah, at the cops while the city's on fire. So it says here, the prospect of massive protests on both sides is only one of many ways the contest between the parties could extend beyond Election Day in an unprecedented manner, perhaps up until Inauguration Day or on January 20th, if the November 3rd voting produces anything less than a blowout lead for either side, and perhaps even if it produces a blowout lead for Joe Biden, the post-election period is likely to test how far the GOP leaders and rank-and-file Republican voters will go in tolerating efforts from Trump to subvert the rules of our democracy. On that front, a new study from the Vanderbilt University political scientist Larry M. Bartles offers important and ominous findings. Bartle finds that anti-democratic and authoritarian ideas have secured a substantial foothold within the GOP's electoral coalition. In a national survey he conducted in January, just over half of Republican voters, including both the self-identified and independents who lean towards the party strongly or somewhat agreed with the statement that the traditional American way of life is disappearing so fast that we may have to use force to save it. Yeah, I would agree with that statement. Okay? Strong leaders sometimes have to bend the rules in order to get things done. About 2 in 5 agree that a time will come when patriotic Americans have to take the law into their own hands, and almost 3/4 concluded that it is hard to trust the results of elections when so many people will vote for anyone who offers a handout. So they are already trying to set the right up, saying that we are going to be the ones to foment and cause all of the destruction and the chaos. So you see how they've manifested everything against Trump, right? They blame Trump for what they do. Now they're going to try to blame America and average, everyday, patriotic Americans for what they themselves, on the left, are going to do. Are you starting to catch on? I'm not making this up. This is their own words. And by their own actions, they do exactly what they blame others for doing. Every single time. Pretty soon it becomes like the MO, right? They're all about destruction. They're nothing about building up anything. I talked about that in my open. It's ridiculous that anybody could have any trust for these people any further at any given time. The final destruction of the Democrat Party must happen this election. There's no way we can allow them to win because this country will be finished. And I keep telling friends, vote red or America's dead. So, here's the patriotic Americans. And I hope this video will play. I'll only show you a couple of seconds. But there are thousands of armed Kentucky militiamen, former special ops, former Marines, former Green Berets, former everything. And it gets a little blurry for a minute. I'll go forward and see if it'll play. Here you go. In the background, there's more. And there's streets where they're just coming down. The whole street's taken up. And yet, Antifa and BLM and the left think that they're ever going to win a civil war with patriotic Americans. These people are insane. Insane. This is one militia in one state, and there's literally thousands of people there. Further in the video, and this video is like, it's almost 40 minutes long. Further in the video, they show, because they kept coming in waves, they're walking down the streets, 15 wide, and they go on forever. And they just keep showing up here. So I encourage you to watch that, because it's very telling how regular patriotic Americans, freedom and liberty loving, that's another word you never hear from the left. You ever notice that? When do you ever hear Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, or anybody speak about liberty? When? When? When do they speak about liberty? They always speak about justice, the injustice that's being caused by the white man. You understand how they pitted everybody against everybody? And Lincoln said, a house divided cannot stand? They hate everything about the conservative Republican GOP party. And Lincoln was the first. And Lincoln coined that phrase, a house divided cannot stand. And that's why they work so hard night and day to divide Americans on every front. Think about it. Every front. Maybe next show I'm going to write down everything they divide us on. It'll be quite a lengthy list. But all you have to do is just go sit down for 10 minutes and just put your mind to it and say, what do they divide us on? It's everything. It's marriage, it's sex, it's homophobia, it's misogyny, it's equal pay, it's everything. Whether you're a Christian, whether you're a Catholic, whether you're a Jew, whether you're a Muslim, it doesn't matter. Let's just throw everything in the mix. If you're not woke, if you're woke, you could go on forever. But eventually, because their wokeness is such a disease, because their whole justice warrior thing with their whole let's change the speech, let's change how many genders there are, eventually they start cannibalizing themselves. So even their own ideology starts to consume Democrats. And those are the Democrats that are getting out of the party. And those are what people I say are Democrats. They're not liberals. They're not far left zombie-like hive mind liberals. They're mainstream Democrats who are more to the center. And they should be listed as independents, but they consider themselves a Democrat because they think of JFK. They think of the party of JFK. He's dead. He's gone. They killed him. I believe his own party killed him. The deep state, the CIA, they had him eradicated for a number of reasons. So we're going to switch gears here a little bit because I'm going to tie it all together at the end. So this Chinese virologist, she worked at the Wuhan laboratory. She claims that she has proof COVID-19 was made. Remember I spoke on the last show and I gave you the proof that Anthony Fauci and Bill Gates and the NIH own the patent rights to COVID? Yeah, they own the patent rights. So those of you who have never seen my shows before, go back and watch last show, the show before it, the show before it, the show before it. And I think almost every show that I've done, because I started this during COVID because I could see that this was a political ruse to be used against the American public to affect this election. And I've been talking about this. I've been talking about Bill Gates. I've been talking about the NIH. I've been talking about the CDC, the WHO, and even the FDA for shows. over a dozen shows. This woman claims it was man-made, and she worked in the lab that did it. So let's just scroll down for a minute, and she, when asked where the deadly virus that has killed more than 900,000 around the globe comes from, Yan, speaking via video chat from a secret location, she's in London right now, it comes from the lab in Wuhan, and the lab is controlled by China's government. Now you know, because I've told you and shown you the proof and put up all the show notes, the government links that Obama had Fauci cancel corona experimentation in the United States in, I believe it was 2013, and they offshored the whole project to Wuhan, China, and Obama gave $3.7 million for the lab. Obama. For the lab. So it says here, she insisted that widespread reports that the virus originated last year from a wet market in Wuhan are a smokescreen. The first thing is the meat market in Wuhan. It's a smokescreen, and this virus is not from nature. Not from nature can't get a patent. Man-made can get a patent. Meaning that if it's man-made, I showed this in the last show, if it's man-made, this is a biological weapon. And they violated the Biological Weapons Treaty. And that's what they can be charged with. That's the way that they're going to get them. That's the way Durham and Barr are going to get these people. The virologist has previously accused Beijing of lying about when it learned of the killer bug and engaging in an extensive cover-up of her work. She had said her former supervisors at the Hong Kong School of Public Health, a reference laboratory for the World Health Organization, a reference library for the World Health Organization that covered up what was happening in Wuhan and China. And meanwhile, the Chinese government shut down all travel from Wuhan to anywhere else in China. You couldn't leave Wuhan and go anywhere else in China, and you couldn't leave from anywhere else in China and go to Wuhan. But you could get on an airplane and fly from Wuhan to San Francisco, to New York, to London, to Paris, to Rome. You could go all over the place out of China, but you couldn't go anywhere else in China because they didn't want this to get out of control in their own country. This was planned. And Trump knows it, which is why he's saying, and if I win, I will hold China accountable. He's not talking about going to war. He's talking about taking it out of them monetarily to the point where they're going to be paying for the American infrastructure. They're going to be paying for the next 20 years to rebuild America. Because essentially they shut down this country. And these blue state mayors and governors who are being complicit and leaving everything shut down and leaving good American, honest, tax-paying American citizens hanging out to dry, they need to be tried for treason. And thus the 100,000, over 100,000 sealed federal indictments, folks. 100,000. Go and look it up yourself. It's all out there on the internet. Don't use Google. They're going to hide everything from you. They bury it back about page 100 because they know most people won't have the patience to get past, you're scrolling and scrolling. Oh, next page. Click. Wait for it to load. Scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. You're going to sit there and do that through 99 pages until maybe you might happen upon a story that's going to give you the truth. Google covers up everything. They're in on this. They're in on it. Google owns YouTube. YouTube's shutting down videos. They shut down my last video. I'll talk about that in a minute. So, it says here, in April, Yan reportedly fled Hong Kong and escaped to America to raise awareness about the pandemic. She's now not in America. She's over in London. That's where she actually was talking to them from. But this article goes on and on. Now, apparently, her research is going to be released later on this week. So, I encourage you, and I'm going to find that research, and even afterwards, I'll post it on the show notes as an after addendum to my show notes. But you need to go in and read this. So, it says here, time for an investigation. Dr. Fauci and the NIAID accused of collaboration with China on the COVID-19 virus. Wow. Been saying that for shows, haven't I? Americans are unaware of the extent of China's infiltration of the U.S. medical research, the degree to which U.S. officials and scientists facilitated it, the possibility, dangerous transfer of technology, including that related to the likely creation of the COVID-19 virus, and the continuation of such collaborative programs. Collaborative programs. Patent. Corona. Obama. 3.7 million. Wuhan. Laboratory. Virus gets out. Supposed to be containment level 4. Find out it's containment level 2. China shuts down Wuhan from anywhere in China but leaves travel open to the entire world. We get COVID. They don't want Trump. Nobody wants Trump because he's draining the global swamp. It's not just here, it's global. I showed you the riots and the protests in France, in Germany. They're rioting and protesting in every Western country. They want their political freedom and they want their freedoms back. They want to end socialism. The English want their guns. The Australians want their guns back. You understand? If we lose this election, this is the last stand on earth of freedom. We already saved Europe once. This time here, we may have to save them again. From themselves, from who they voted in over there. Because they don't have a constitution. We do. And considering that Trump built the largest economy and we now have the best military, and believe it or not, the Russians don't want any part of this global government. Trump's been saying that all along. I'm not saying that Putin's the greatest guy on earth. But you want to know something? He's the devil you know. He's better than the devil that you don't, right? Because they could instill one of these globalist arseholes in Russia and take out Putin just as easily as they could try to take out Trump. The difference is Putin's wise. He's onto them. He's a crook as well. And he's no spring chicken. He's a political hack. But if push came to shove, the Russians aren't going to get involved with us if we have to go in and save Europe. They want nothing to do with global governance. But the Chinese do. And the Chinese have a border with the Russians. That's a political advantage to us, which is why Trump has always said it's better to build some kind of a political bridge with Russia than to have a political divide. But the Democrats have worked day and night to stop that from happening. Why? Why? Remember, everything they accuse him of is what they've done. They want the Russians complicit with the takeover of America. And quite frankly, I think Putin would sooner get in bed with Trump, even though Trump is hurting him monetarily, than for Putin to lose control of Russia to the oligarchs. I honestly believe that. I could be wrong, but my spidey senses haven't let me down yet in any of my research and any of my predictions that I've made privately to my family or friends or to myself. I've written things down. 99% of what I predict always comes to pass. So I highlighted this in black because I wanted to read you this. Based upon the preponderance of evidence, there is now little question that the virus that has caused the worldwide pandemic likely came from a laboratory in China. The question remains whether an accidental leak was a consequence of biological warfare experiments. I said the word biological warfare before, right? By the Chinese Communist Party. The Chinese government collaborated with the World Health Organization, the WHO, to downplay the threat and make the case that this virus appeared to not be transmitted from human to human, but rather from animal, primarily bats, to humans. There is also the question of why China cut off all domestic flights between the Wuhan population, 11 million, and Beijing and Shanghai, but not between Wuhan, Europe, and America. There is also questions about the role of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, a division of the National Institutes of Health, NIH, headed by Dr. Anthony Fauci, in directing U.S. grant funds to the Wuhan Institutes of Virology and the nature of the experiment that funding supported. With that, I am calling for an investigation of NIAID's controversial research collaboration with China regarding the origins of the COVID-19 virus. A Senate committee or Justice Department investigation would be a great start. I have written a series of articles on this topic, which you can find here. So he has written articles and he is appealing to the DOJ and to the Senate to start hearings. I told you before, Fauci's already under investigation through Durham. But now they want this to go public. They want to humiliate him, and they want him to talk. They want to shake him down so that he'll talk in private and give up all the goods. That's what they want. And the DOJ and the FBI and the Senate would have a much better chance if these are public and they can catch him, and then they can get him to testify or give them the goods on all the other people involved, like Bill and Melinda Gates, like the Clintons, like the Obamas. This is an evil web that goes deep, folks, very deep. Very, very deep. They've been willing to create a coup and to try to impeach a president. They tried to get him on a fake investigation. Now they're going to try this by ballot harvesting and ballot fraud. And if that doesn't win, they're going to try to shake the country down with their brown shirt. Actually, it's black shirt, black face, black masks, and burn, loot, and murder squads out on the streets to beat America into submission. That's where we're headed. So, I said I was going to bring all this together. So they're using COVID-19 as a distraction so that we don't talk and the conversation ceases to exist. They want our guns. They want us in our houses. They don't care about business. They don't care about average Americans. They're willing to blame everything on Trump and the right. Meanwhile, it's their thugs out causing all the mayhem on the streets. And if this disaster ever gotten anywhere near the White House, the suburbs of America will be demolished. And I guarantee you, within 2 years of a Biden presidency, you will have what's going on in the cities right in your suburban small communities, your small town America, where everything was quiet and you had law and order. You're going to find burning, looting, and murder. And here's why. And it's funny because I'm talking to my friend from Canada right before this, and I said Section 8 housing. He goes, hey, on MASH, wasn't Section 8, like you went to the loony bin? I said, yeah, well, they want to turn every community into the loony bin. And the loony bin means that nobody's safe and everybody is always in chaos and perpetual turmoil all the time. So it says here, well-known Democrat presidential candidate Joe Biden has a $640 billion housing plan on the table that is designed to force suburban communities to have low-income and multifamily housing complexes in place, as he is bragging that he has the support of Wall Street for his plan. While visiting Kenosha, Wisconsin, where riots and violence have been raging over the last several weeks, Biden boasted to his supporters that Wall Street supports his housing plan because it will increase the GDP. So this goes on. And it says here, under Biden's plan, there would be an increase of Section 8 housing vouchers while requiring suburban communities to make various maneuvers to comply with the new regulations in order to obtain federal grants. I've been talking about this for the last, 4 shows. The plan provides $300 million investments to give states and localities the technical assistance and planning support they need to eliminate exclusionary zoning policies and other local regulations that contribute to sprawl. This is under Agenda 2030. Remember, it's now been moved out. It's under Agenda 2030, and Agenda 2020 was a pivotal year for them. That's why all this mayhem is going on. So it says, according to Breitbart, which is a reputable news source, even the people who are in the center and they're in the purple, they are a reputable news source. He gives you the straight goods. He gives you facts and data. It's very well researched and put together. But it says here, communities unwilling to eliminate their zoning laws to allow multifamily mixed income housing development within their neighborhoods would be shut out of federal grants under Biden's plan. Exclusionary zoning has for decades been strategically used to keep people of color and low-income families out of certain communities. That's the narrative that they use to keep this low-income housing out of these suburban communities. Well, actually, that's not the truth of it. They use that as the excuse. But let me ask you something. So if you live in a small community like I do, it's a very small, it's a historic town. It's one of the oldest towns in Connecticut. It's one of the only towns that has an actual green, like Lexington Green. Everybody knows what Lexington Green is. If you don't, please go do some research. You need to sharpen up on your American history. But this is a very historic town. And we have a historical society here. We have one of the oldest jails in the state right here, like literally a quarter of a mile from my house. It's the coolest thing. We have a military museum in town. We have some of the oldest churches in the state are here in this town. And they want to bring that housing into this community where already 40% of our tax money gets funneled into Hartford and other cities within, like big cities. This is a small community. We only have 15,000 people sprawled out over a 10 square mile area, right? Now, if you've got 40% of your property taxes, and trust me, we pay a lot in property tax here in this community. I mean, a lot. A hell of a lot. It's what some people would pay for their mortgages in a year on their home is what we pay in property taxes right here. And I'm not making that up. It's a lot of money. And then we have the car tax on top of that, which is almost $1,000 a year. I already paid the tax on, we have a brand new car. So we paid the tax on the car when we bought it. And now every year I have to pay a property tax on that car based upon a mill rate within my town. And it's almost $1,000 on top of my property tax for the house that I own. On the property that I'm paying property taxes is where I park the car, but I'm paying property taxes on the car that I already paid property tax on. Wow. Isn't that a maneuver? But anyway, so 40% of my tax money gets funneled into these cities. So if I'm funneling the money into the cities, why are these people moving out here when we only have literally 2 police officers for 10 square miles allocated to our town? We have a fire department, which is volunteer, other than the chief. I mean, why would we have low-income housing where we're going to bring people out that, in a lot of instances, it has nothing to do with your color? Because there's plenty of rioting, looting, murderous. We see them on TV on these videos. They're white. A couple of years ago, I'm going to share this story really quickly and then I'll move on. But this is to show you what's going on. A couple of years ago in this town, and I'm only going back, 3? My neighbors have lived there 2 years. It's going back 4 years. And they had town hall meetings over it. They wanted to put up literally a mile from my house as soon as you got off the highway. I live just off 84. So you get off the highway, and the first thing you come to, the Electric Blue, which is a strip club. I've never gone there, never will. Right next door is a Subway. Well, upstairs from the strip club is a little restaurant, and next door is a liquor store. And then next door to that is a gas station. So they wanted to build a 5-story hotel complex right behind the Subway, right next to the Electric Blue. And then behind that, adjacent to a kids' park and the soccer fields, they wanted to take all the acreage back there, and they wanted to put up 661 apartment units with ground floor retail space on the ground floor. So basically like condo apartment units. And they wanted to cater to specifically UConn students. So they opened this up to the town to go and have these meetings and for people to voice their opinion. Of course I go, right? I'm a big mouth. And I have my political views, and I also do the research, and I know what I'm talking about. So I go to the first town hall meeting, and I listen. Don't say anything. Well, I go to the next town hall meeting, and now you can't even get into the town hall. It's like packed. There's people in the hallway. There's people all the way down the stairs. Nobody can get into the actual meeting room. It only holds about 75, maybe 100 people at the most. And it's up on literally on the 3rd floor. So they had the next one at the high school. And they had it at the high school auditorium. So there was about 2,500 people showed up to this thing. It was packed. So I got up. I had done my research. And one of the things that struck me, so these UConn students, right? They wanted to cater this housing complex to UConn students. So I started doing research on UConn. And I found out that UConn has the highest use of heroin out of any college campus in the United States. Right here. 8 miles from my house. Not kidding. The highest incidence of heroin and methamphetamines were on that campus, UConn. So they want to cater to these students, but yeah, we're going to be bringing in meth heads and kids that are all cracked out. Living next door to a strip club, a liquor store, a hotel, and abutting a kids park with swing sets and slides and soccer fields and baseball fields and a swimming hole with a beach. They wanted to put this in there. Yeah, that was a great plan. So I got up and I read through my 10 points about, we'd have to pay for, first of all, we'd have to get a new ladder truck for the fire department because our trucks don't go 5 floors up to put out a fire on the top floor of a hotel. We'd have to have traffic calming. We need lights. We'd have to widen the road from here going all the way up to the college because it's 1 lane each side. Then we'd have to have city transportation. Then we'd have to increase the police force, right? These are all expenses. So how does Biden's plan, right, affect suburbs? Because you tax people in the suburbs out of existence to where they can't afford to live in their home anymore. So you put all these new perks on, right? We're going to give you this. Then you're going to get... So they're trying to pass right now in my town. It's a historic town. There's no drive-thrus allowed. So they want to put a drive-thru now at the Dunkin' Donuts. And people are saying no. Because if they change the zoning law on that, they change the zoning laws on everything. You see how this works? Agenda 21, which is now Agenda 30, it's about changing the zoning laws and bringing the city to you. And then overtaxing you to the point where you're funding the cities, and now you're paying for extra police, and you're paying for all of these other things, traffic lights, traffic calming, police, fire department, more ambulance. So now you need access to, the emergency helicopter. Now you need access to more essential services, right? Out here, the only thing we have for all the taxes that we pay is garbage pickup and snow plowing. That's it. We don't have sewer. We don't have water. Hell, I don't even have natural gas. That's all we get. For a complete 1 year's mortgage payment on somebody else's house, that's what I get in my property tax. And then I pay a car tax on top of that. But yet my funds are diverted to the city, but they want to move the city folk out here so they can cityize my historic town. Because one of their goals is, right, they're removing the history. Well, if the city moves here, the history gets erased. Small town America gets erased. That's the end game. They move you into stacking packs in the city where you're under observation on a video camera and recorded day and night no matter what you do. Then they get rid of your currency and they give you digital currency because now they can track whatever you do. Now, if they don't like you and you don't follow their rules, you can't buy a gun. You can't get ammunition. You can't get this. You want surgery? You can't even get surgery. They'll take everything away from you because they don't like you. That's how communists and socialists work. Just go back to 1930s and 40s and look what happened in history. Look at Hugo Chavez. Look at what happened on Cuba. Look at Venezuela. It doesn't matter where this is tried, is an epic failure. And that's what they want to bring to our country. And they keep saying, well, it's for the benefit of America. They want to have a universal... Oh my God, I'm talking to my friend in Canada. One of the things Trudeau wants to do is make universal income. So everybody's guaranteed at least, I think he said $48,000 a year. Are you kidding me? So the entitled culture that we have right now, these pukes that are out rioting who think that the world owes them something, now they're getting handed for... I'll tell you what, Canada, if you're listening, and I told him he needs to start speaking up and be an advocate up there too, because his country is being hammered into the ground just as hard as they're trying here. Canada, if you're listening, if that's the direction you want to go, excuse me, I'll tell you what. We'll take all these BML and Antifa activists and we'll put them all up there and we'll have Trump build another wall along the northern border. And you can keep them. You can take them all. You can have fun with them. And here's another thing I wanted to bring to your attention, right? So the left is now saying that this climate change thing, right? Climate change. The wildfires are all related to climate change, all Trump's fault. Let me show you something. This is the wildfires in California. So if this is due to global warming, Can you tell me why the fires stop at the Canadian border above California? Why does it stop above the U.S. border going into, Alberta and Saskatchewan and British Columbia? Can somebody explain that one? Can somebody explain why all these fires are here, but they're exposed to the same sun, the same harsh climate up in this area over here, but there's no fires north of the border? Can somebody explain that one? Right? And explain something else to me. So while the fires are burning, Mr. Obama buys a property just off Cape Cod on Martha's Vineyard, 3.5 feet above sea level. He buys a huge mansion on Maui in Hawaii, which is literally 6 feet above sea level there. So if the ice caps are melting and global warming and global climate change are real epidemics that we're all going to die from in 12 years, cities are going to be buried underwater. Why did he buy these two properties? Wouldn't that be hedging on a bad bet? And speaking of hedging, well, if you were a hedge fund manager or you were somebody in the insurance industry, why would you hedge on selling properties along the coastline, right? Knowing that the value will be nothing, right? So you're building all these high-rise buildings that you own as an investor, right? Along the coastline of the United States, but sea levels are rising. Oh, and then why would the insurance companies offer you an insurance policy on your home for extra money for flooding if there's literally hundreds of millions of homes along the coastline along the United States and Canada? Geez, wouldn't an insurance hedge fund manager look at that and go, well, we can't do that because of global climate change and global climate warming within 10 to 12 years, according to AOC and the rest of the party of ill repute and deceit, is saying that everybody's going to be flooded underwater. So what are we doing, man? We're going to lose all this money. Billions. They'll never lose billions because it's not real. They're diverting your money. They're taking the money from good, honest, hardworking Americans. Thank God Trump got us out of the TPP and the Paris Climate Accord. What a joke those were, right? Good thing he changed NAFTA. It's a good thing he's dealing with China and making them pay tariffs. But global climate change is just a way to tax you for the money to be skimmed off for their pet projects, and then they reallocate your funds somewhere else. And meanwhile, as North Americans, we live in the two countries that have the lowest carbon emissions on the planet. In the 1970s, they already labeled carbon emissions. They were already planning this, right? Right now, in 2020, we've exceeded the carbon emissions that they had planned for us in 2040. We're 20 years ahead of schedule. You can burn coal clean. You can burn gasoline and diesel pretty cleanly. The reason why these forests are on fire isn't from global climate change. It's because they're not doing proper reforesting in the forests. The state governors up there, which are all left-leaning, don't want them to clean the forest floors. I watched a video this afternoon. The amount of dead trees in the Northwest has grown exponentially over the years because they're not cleaning them up. So what happens is the ones that are dead and fallen over, because forest is a life cycle. They die, the forest replenishes itself. The Native American Indians did control burns. It's recorded in their own history. So, you remember Smokey the Bear? We used to talk about Smokey the Bear, don't light a forest fire, only you can stop a forest fire. Well, it was because people who love nature, smokers, campers, whatever, would accidentally light the forest on fire. Well, that's not happening, especially not during COVID, because nobody's camping, because nobody's allowed to socialize and get together. So the fires are being started, and I'm not making this up. I already got people telling me off on Twitter and Facebook. Oh, you're full of shit. The people from Antifa and BLM aren't starting these fires. Yeah, they are. They have videos. I have to find them again because two of them already disappeared off YouTube. Gee, I wonder why. People driving down the highway in a forested area, and it's dry, I'll give you that. They're throwing Molotov cocktails out of their freaking cars and lighting the forest on fire. Huh. That's not planned. No. So, with that being said, you see all the chaos that's being created in our lives to keep us completely off balance and confused Some people scared about going to vote because I got to have a mask on, COVID-19. This has all been a pre-planned destiny for us. These people have a plan for everything. This is planned at the highest levels. The pandemic, I've shown you in the last video, they had they have war games, right? To keep your country's military in ready status, preparedness for the event of war. They had, in October, the NIH, CDC, the WHO, the FDA, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Fauci was there. They had a mock drill on how to run a pandemic in 2020. Come on. I'll put all this in the show notes. You people need to wake up in the center. Need to wake up because there's only two choices here. Socialism on the left or Trump on the right. And like I keep telling people, you may not like Trump for whatever your various reasons are. You have to put that aside. You have to look at what the man's done. Don't judge him on what he says. Judge him on what he does. And then take a look at what the left says and judge them by what they do. Because in both instances, actions speak louder than words. And that's going to be the title of my show. Actions speak louder than words. I hope you enjoyed today's show, folks. It's 12:20, and I really had a good time putting this show on for you. I enjoyed doing the research. I'll put everything in my show notes. If you like the show, please hit the like button. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. And please pass this video around. Make sure your friends who are in the center or in the not know, right? They're in the no-no zone, that they have the opportunity to either see my video or someone else on the conservative side that has a like video where they can show them the truth and they can give them some narratives that make them expand their mind and think some of these questions through. Because if you ask yourself questions, what does the Democrat Party do for me? What have they done for me in the past? And then look at what Trump's done for you in literally 42 months, or actually 46 months, and say to yourself, am I better off now? Ronald Reagan asked this question. Am I better off now than I was 4 years ago? Yeah, I am. Is the violence good? No, it's not. Are Trump's hands tied right now? Yeah, the Constitution ties his hands because the governors have to ask him to send the National Guard in. He can't just arbitrarily. Now, he can use the Insurrection Act and he can do it. But at this stage of the game, with an election coming up, you know the left would be crying, he's trying to become a tyrant. He's a Hitler. He's going to try to take over the country. He's putting the National Guard in. He's going to stamp out the Constitution. Meanwhile, it's them stamping out the Constitution. Remember, whatever they accuse him of, they do. So they will do that and use that against him. Because no matter what happens, the left and their sycophants in the media will do whatever it takes to try to drive Trump into the ground any way possible. My biggest fear is that they try to assassinate him. And if that happens, I will guarantee you they will have to call it the National Guard because there will be an insurrection in this country. There will be a hunting of left. The hunting of the leaders of the left and the people in the deep state. There are people right now in the top of the Republican Party and people in the FBI and the CIA who know who these people are. Durham knows who they are. Barr knows who they are. You don't think that Pence becomes president if that were to happen and this still doesn't go down, but it'll go down in such a way that people aren't going to know what's going on because they're just going to come at them from every angle. Right now with Trump, they're going after them judicially. They're going after them with the investigations. But if they were to try to whack him or take him out of the picture, I guarantee you this gets sped up so fast, it'll make your head spin. But anyhow, this is not what you want to come to small town America. The people in the center, you need to really think and spread my video around to the people who are in the center. Spread it to your friends. Subscribe to the show. I had a great time doing the show tonight, folks. I'm going to let you go, and I'm going to catch you on the next one. Anyway, go to the Convention of States petition and sign it, please. God bless you, God bless your family, and God bless America.